David sits in jail charged with the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The LA County Medical Examiner is releasing the official report on her death.
And Mark Robles joins us now live at the studio tonight with new reaction from the girl's family. Mark?
Yeah, David and Giovanna, the details are deeply disturbing. This medical examiner's report unsealed by the court confirms 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was stabbed to death. The official cause of death listed as multiple penetrating injuries. One stab wound on her left chest, the second on her right side, and injured her liver. The report describes her body weighing 71 pounds as badly decomposed and severely dismembered. We're also learning some of her fingers were even mutilated. We spoke to a former investigator who has assisted in more than 20,000 autopsies. He explained why this report was likely a difficult one.
The condition of her body, how she was presented, it causes a lot of problems. Because of the condition of her body, it's a lot of tissue, it's decomposed, so you really can't collect what you want in an ordinary autopsy.
Despite that, prosecutors say they believe they have the evidence that connects David to her death. The singer charged Monday with murder, mutilation of remains, and continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14. He pleaded not guilty. Regarding the autopsy results, the chief medical examiner said in a statement that making the information publicly available is not just about accountability, it's also about social justice and prevention.
Her dismembered body was found in the trunk of his car. It had been there for months. He was on tour. Pause. The car was sitting in a tow yard, impounded, abandoned, and inside it, in two separate bags, were the remains of a 14-year-old girl who had been reported missing more than a year before anyone came looking in the right place. She was wearing Hello Kitty slippers the last time her family saw her. If you're new here, this is True Crime Institute. We don't look away, we don't move on, and we don't let the world forget the ones who deserve better. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay with me, because this one is going to stay with you. His song was called Romantic Homicide. It went viral, hundreds of millions of streams, a generation of teenagers had it on repeat. Fan edits, tribute videos, comment sections full of kids saying he understood them like nobody else did. The song was called Romantic Homicide, and he has been charged with the murder of a 14-year-old girl. Her name was Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and this is her story. Celeste grew up in Lake Elsinore, a small, tight-knit city in Riverside County, California, about 70 miles southeast of Hollywood, a world away from the Hollywood Hills in every sense that matters. She was the kind of kid who made people smile. Thick, dark curls, a soft smile that showed up in every photo. She loved Hello Kitty, she loved singing and dancing. Every Friday night was movie night with her family. Her parents, Jesus Rivas and Mercedes Martinez, described her as a beautiful, strong girl, a daughter who always told them she loved them. She was 13 years old when she first came into contact with David Anthony Burke. The world knew him as D4VD. David Burke was 18 at the time, a rising musician out of Texas who had relocated to Los Angeles to chase the career that was beginning to take shape. He had an online presence, a growing fan base, and a Discord server called D4VD's Closet that would eventually grow to nearly 40,000 members. He was the kind of artist who built intimacy with his audience. The kind who made his fans feel like they knew him personally, like they were part of something. Celeste became one of those fans, and according to prosecutors, that is where everything began to go wrong. The complaint filed by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office makes an allegation that is difficult to read and impossible to ignore. Prosecutors allege that beginning in September of 2023, when Celeste had just turned 13 and Burke was 18, he began sexually abusing her. The complaint states that he resided with and had recurring access to her. This was not a one-time incident. According to prosecutors, this was continuous, sustained, and deliberately hidden. Let that land for a moment. While his career was growing, while the streams were climbing, while a generation of teenagers was putting his music on their playlists and calling him their favorite artist, prosecutors allege he was systematically abusing a 13-year-old girl, and nobody outside that situation knew. By June of 2024, Celeste had been photographed backstage at one of his Los Angeles shows. She was there, in his world, in his orbit. Her family, back in Lake Elsinore, knew she had been reported missing before. She had a history of running away, something that would later become a painful detail in how this case unfolded, because it meant that when she disappeared, some people assumed they already knew the explanation. They didn't. In April of 2025, Celeste was 14 years old. David Burke was now 20. His career had continued to grow, his tour was being planned, tickets were going on sale. The world was watching him ascend. And on April 23, 2025, prosecutors say Celeste arrived at David Burke's home in the Hollywood Hills. She was never seen alive again. According to the charges filed by District Attorney Nathan Hochman, what happened that day was not an accident. It was not a tragedy without intent. Prosecutors allege that David Burke invited Celeste to his home and intentionally killed her, by means of lying in wait. They allege the motive was calculated and cold. Celeste had threatened to expose what he had been doing to her. She was going to tell people. She was going to go public. And prosecutors allege that David Burke decided that could not happen. The medical examiner's report released after his arrest concluded that Celeste died by homicide. The cause: 2 penetrating wounds to the torso with smooth edges, consistent with sharp force injuries. Her liver was damaged. There was evidence of traumatic injury. She was 14 years old. After she was killed, prosecutors allege Burke did not call for help, did not call the police, did not surrender himself to the consequences of what he had done. Instead, according to the charges, he dismembered her body. He placed her remains into 2 separate bags, her head and torso in one, her arms and legs in another, and he put those bags into the front trunk of his Tesla. And then he left. He went on with his life, his career, his public presence, his tour planning, while Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who loved Hello Kitty and Friday night movies and singing and dancing, was in the trunk of his car. For months, Celeste's family reported her missing. The investigation initially treated her as a runaway. She had been reported missing before. That history, which should have triggered more urgency, not less, was used to explain away her absence. Her family knew something was different this time. But the machinery of a missing persons case moves at its own pace. And a teenage girl with a history of running away does not always get the resources her disappearance deserves. That is a failure this case has forced into the open, and it is worth naming. The months passed. Burke's Tesla was eventually towed, impounded, abandoned at a Hollywood tow yard, the kind of place where cars sit and collect dust while the paperwork catches up. Nobody was looking in the trunk. Nobody had reason to. Until September 8, 2025. That is the day Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found. Her badly decomposed, dismembered remains, in those 2 bags, in the front trunk of that impounded Tesla, were discovered more than 4 months after she had last been seen alive. The medical examiner's report was immediately placed under a security hold by the Los Angeles Police Department, barring the release of the cause and manner of death until further notice. The investigation was active, and the name at the center of it was David Burke. The public did not know yet, but the LAPD knew, and the process that would lead to his arrest had begun. What followed was one of the most methodical investigations in recent Los Angeles true crime history. The LAPD did not move quickly and publicly. They moved carefully and quietly. Over the following months, a grand jury process was initiated, the kind of secret legal proceeding where evidence is heard behind closed doors and ordinary citizens decide whether criminal charges should be recommended. There were not 1, not 2, but 3 separate grand jury panels that looked at evidence in this case. November 2025, December 2025, February 2026. 3 rounds of scrutiny before prosecutors were satisfied they had what they needed. Meanwhile, Burke continued living his life. His music was still streaming, his fan base was still growing, and in late November 2025, the Los Angeles Times reported that he was officially a suspect. Court documents began appearing publicly in February 2026, confirming that Burke was the target of a murder investigation. His own parents and younger brother, based in Texas, were subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury. They filed petitions attempting to avoid that testimony. In those petitions, the subpoenas were attached, documents that stated prosecutors believed Burke may be involved in foul play tied to Celeste's death. His family said publicly that they supported him 100%. On April 16, 2026, 13 months after Celeste was last seen alive, David Anthony Burke was arrested in Los Angeles on suspicion of murder. he was taken into custody, held without bail, and placed in solitary confinement. 4 days later, on April 20th, 2026, District Attorney Nathan Hochman formally announced the charges: first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, unlawful mutilation of a body. 3 charges, each one a separate horror, each one carrying sentences that combined could result in life in prison without parole or death. Prosecutors have not yet decided whether to seek the death penalty. Burke appeared at his arraignment in orange jail clothes, handcuffs removed when he sat. He spoke twice during the proceeding, both times to say "yes, ma'am," in response to procedural questions from the judge. He pleaded not guilty to all counts. His defense team, a group of experienced Los Angeles criminal defense attorneys, released a statement that was direct and unambiguous. The actual evidence in this case will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. We will vigorously defend David's innocence. His attorneys also made an unusual legal move, invoking Burke's right in California to have the preliminary evidence hearing within 10 court days of arraignment. In most cases, defense teams want more time, not less. The strategy here appeared to be transparency, forcing the prosecution's evidence into the open as quickly as possible. But what the prosecution revealed at the first substantive court hearing stopped the room. 40 terabytes. Not 40 gigabytes, not a few hard drives. 40 terabytes of digital data collected from Burke's devices over the course of the months-long investigation. To put that in perspective, 40 terabytes is roughly equivalent to 20 million photos, or 800 million pages of text. It is an almost incomprehensible volume of digital evidence. And within that evidence, prosecutors said, was a significant amount of child sexual abuse material found on his iPhone. The prosecutor addressed the court directly on the volume of what had been collected. It is unlikely that there will be very much discovery provided within that period, given the voluminous nature and how long it's going to take to copy out the drives. 40 terabytes from one person's devices in a murder case involving a child victim who had been in his life for nearly 2 years before her death. Members of Burke's Discord server, the D4WD's closet community, still live with nearly 40,000 members as of this recording, have claimed that Celeste and Burke communicated frequently through the platform. The digital trail, if the prosecution's claims are accurate, is not thin, it is enormous. On April 22, 2026, the medical examiner's report was finally released to the public. 2 penetrating wounds to the torso, smooth edges consistent with a sharp instrument, injury to the liver, traumatic injury, manner of death, homicide. The body found in those 2 bags in that tow yard trunk had been stabbed, and on April 23, 2026, exactly 1 year to the day after Celeste was last seen alive, Burke appeared in court again for a status conference. The prosecutor noted the date out loud. Today it's been exactly 1 year since the death of Celeste. We're eager to set this case for trial. The preliminary evidentiary hearing is scheduled to begin May 1st, 2026. That is the proceeding where prosecutors will lay out their evidence before a judge, publicly, for the first time. What comes out of that hearing will shape everything that follows. Now let's ask the questions that matter. Question 1. How was this hidden for so long? David Burke was not living off the grid. He was a public figure with a public career, a public fan base, and a public online presence. He had a Discord server with tens of thousands of members. He was planning a world tour. He was actively engaged with the music industry, and prosecutors allege that during this entire period, he had killed a girl, dismembered her body, and left her in his car. How does something like that remain hidden inside a life that visible? And what does that tell us about how well predators can conceal themselves inside plain sight? Question 2. What does 40 terabytes tell us? That volume of digital evidence does not come from a week of suspicious activity. It comes from sustained, documented behavior over an extended period of time. Prosecutors have not yet detailed what all 40 terabytes contained, but they have confirmed child sexual abuse material was among it. The question the defense will need to answer is not just what Burke did on April 23, 2025, it is what the full scope of that digital record shows about the years that preceded it. Question 3. What failed Celeste before April 2025? This is the question that deserves its own investigation. Celeste was first allegedly abused at 13. She had contact with Burke across multiple cities and venues. She appeared backstage at his shows. She was in his home, and when she disappeared, she was treated, at least initially, as a runaway. A system that had the information to connect those dots did not connect them in time. That failure did not cause her death, but it may have extended the window in which she was at risk, and that deserves accountability that goes beyond one defendant in one courtroom. Question 4. Who is David Burke outside the music? His public persona was built on emotional intimacy with young fans. His sound was vulnerable. His lyrics were about longing and heartbreak and feeling misunderstood. He built a community, a discord, a fan base, an identity, around being someone young people could trust. Prosecutors allege that community, that intimacy, that trust, was the infrastructure he used to access and exploit a child. The gap between the public image and the private conduct alleged in these charges is not incidental. It is the mechanism. Let's be precise about where this case stands. David Burke has pleaded not guilty. He has not been convicted. His attorneys maintain that the evidence will show he did not kill Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The American legal system operates on the presumption of innocence, and that principle does not evaporate because of public opinion or the severity of the charges. The preliminary hearing begins May 1st. The process is at its earliest stages. What we know is fact: Celeste's remains were found in his car. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. He has been charged with her murder, her sexual abuse, and the mutilation of her body. He was arrested after a 3 grand jury investigation that produced 40 terabytes of evidence. He is in solitary confinement without bail. While we do not know what the defense's full counter-narrative is, what the 40 terabytes contain beyond what has been disclosed, what the preliminary hearing will reveal, and what a jury will ultimately decide. But here is what cannot be argued away. A 14-year-old girl is dead. Her body was found in pieces in an abandoned car. Her family is grieving in a way that no family should ever have to grieve. And the man charged with her murder was, at the time of her death, actively building a music career on songs about love and loss and heartbreak. Songs that teenagers across the world were listening to with complete trust. The name of his most famous song will follow this case forever. Romantic Homicide. He named it that, he put it out into the world, and now a court of law will decide what David Anthony Burke is responsible for. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She loved Hello Kitty. She loved singing and dancing. Friday nights were movie nights with her family. She always told her parents she loved them. She deserved to grow up. Her family's statement, released through their attorney, was 4 sentences long. Celeste was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday night was movie night, and we spent wonderful times together. We love her very much, and she always told us that she loved us. We miss her deeply. All we want is justice for Celeste. That is it. That is the whole statement. 4 sentences from a family that has lost everything, and they used those 4 sentences to make sure the world remembered who their daughter was. Not how she died, not who allegedly killed her. Who she was. We owe her that same focus. True Crime Institute will be at every development in this case. The preliminary hearing on May 1st. Every evidence disclosure. Every court date. Every verdict. Because Celeste Rivas Hernandez was not a footnote in someone else's story. She was the story. She is the story. And we are not going anywhere until there is justice for her. If this case made you feel something, share it. Not for the numbers, because Celeste's family is watching, and every person who knows her name is one more person who refuses to let the world forget her. Subscribe to True Crime Institute. Turn on your notifications. This case is just beginning. And if you're a young person watching this, please know that no amount of fame, no amount of talent, no amount of online popularity makes anyone trustworthy by default. Trust is built slowly, and it can be faked. Please talk to someone you know in real life if something ever feels wrong. I'm your host. This is True Crime Institute.